Good afternoon, everyone.
皆様こんにちは。
I'd like to welcome you to our GFSI press conference. We just are about to launch the Global Food Safety Conference in about an hour and a half. And we just finished a session called GFSI and You, where we had an opportunity to give an overview of the Consumer Goods Forum and GFSI to the attendees. I'm very happy to report that we have over 1,200 delegates who have registered for this event, making this the largest Global Food Safety Conference on record, and it is actually the largest event that's ever been hosted by the Consumer Goods Forum. So I have to continue to give my Japan local group colleagues and the organizing committee credit for doing a job extremely well, attracting this many delegates to a conference here in Tokyo, and we're very honored to be here. My name is Mike Robach, and I am chairman of the GFSI board, and I am also the vice president for food safety, quality, and regulatory affairs for Cargill. And it's my honor to be the chair of the GFSI board. And it's also my honor to be sitting up here with my distinguished colleagues from the public sector. Important folks from a cooperative standpoint. Our strategic partnership with these folks are absolutely essential to our continued progress in food safety. This is really an extraordinary event. It's the third opportunity that we've had as a GFSI board to interact directly with a number of different governments from around the world on the subject of collaboration and food safety partnerships. It seems actually that 2 years ago in Berlin was not all that long ago when we had our first government-to-business meeting of this sort. But this one that we had yesterday, the third, was very interesting from the extraordinary atmosphere of cooperation and building trust that we've been working on over the past couple of years. So again, I'm very honored to be sitting up here with Paul Mayers from CFIA, Mika Yokota from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Foods in Japan, Michelle Leprodi from Chile, and from Vivek Patek from the IFC, both all members of important partners for GFSI. And I'm going to turn the podium over, or the microphone over to Mika and Paul to talk a little bit about the G2G and the G2B meetings that we had yesterday.
Thank you very much. I'm Mika Yokota from Ministry of Agriculture, Forest and Fishery. Yesterday, I co-chaired the G2B and G2G meeting together with Paul, who is sitting next to me. And I was very amazed by the fruitfulness of the discussion which we had yesterday. And looking back at this past few years, I believe that the public-private partnership been evolving and deepening. And yesterday, 25 organizations from 20 different countries and international organizations have participated in the meeting and had various discussions. And I understood that many countries, they are seeking their best way for the partnership, and all the important topics were raised during the meeting. So I think that was also very fruitful for all the participants of the meeting yesterday. And we also had various discussion on the topics in the board meeting of the DFSI, and I think that it was we didn't have this kind of honest and open discussion between the public sector and the private sector in the past. So I really would like to appreciate GFSI for giving me this precious opportunity. So I would like to pass the microphone to Paul, who had been serving as a chairperson from the first meeting.
Thank you very much. It has been a tremendous pleasure to have the opportunity to work with my Japanese counterparts in leading our discussions between governments and industry yesterday. The leadership of the GFSI in demonstrating a food safety culture on the part of industry is critical to regulators being able to meet their commitment to the protection of consumers. Having the opportunity between governments and industry to have a frank discussion on both the benefits as well as the challenges of using the information from private assurance schemes to help inform decision-making on the part of regulators is both an important development and a tremendous opportunity in strengthening food safety outcomes. With representatives from Asia, Africa, Latin America, North America, and Europe, all working with industry representatives from all of those regions, we are able to bring the perspectives of countries at all levels of development in terms of how they can work with industry in the pursuit of food safety. In particular, we took this opportunity to focus on key issues such as the exchange of information and data, both from private sector and public sector systems to improve food safety outcomes, and the role of private assurance systems in contributing to decision-making. And the countries generally recognize that there are important benefits to be contributed through third-party certification programs in complementing national oversight, and this can allow regulators to focus resources on areas of highest risk. It also gave us the opportunity to explore some of the special challenges and needs for developing countries and how such systems can contribute to improving their food safety outcomes. So again, I congratulate GFSI for working so well with governments in this venture, and I look forward to an excellent conference.
We are very happy to here to signing an agreement with GFSI because we recognize the importance of the partnering with the private sector, as we think that developing a food safety culture is not necessarily the role of a particular actor, of the public actor, but is a citizen issue. Implies that society changes meaning the way it perceives the food safety. In the case of the productive sector, having a solid food safety culture reinforces what can be advanced at the level of the society and facilitates the management of a food safety reward in companies. Although, most importantly, it helps to reinforce the value of food safety from an ethical perspective, given that today it's a value mostly from a regulatory and commercial approach. The agreement will look to work in the following topics: promoting the food safety culture among food safety systems in Chile, strengthening the presence of Chile and Latin America within GFSI, and scaling up the use of the GFSI capacity building program, global markets, and capacity development programs in food safety. Finally, agreements such as these results from the approach between the parties, from the common consensus that jointly the results may be greater than those that would be obtained if a joint association were not held. Thank you very much to GFSI and the board of GFSI to have the opportunity to contribute in developing a global food safety for all the consumers in all the world. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Michelle and the Chilean government for entering into this agreement with GFSI. We're very excited about it, and I see Eric in the back of the room there, who is going to be the man of the hour as we look towards implementing some of the programs that Michelle just outlined. So, Michelle, thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much to Mike and his team for having us here. I work for the IFC, which is part of the World Bank Group, and our mission is to increase shared prosperity and reduce poverty. And I think we are probably at least the only banker or the only financier in the room today, so we are proud to be here. Thank you. Partnering with GFSI is really critical to our mission because of three things. I live in Hong Kong, and from an Asian perspective, in Asia we have a very rapidly growing middle class. In a few years, almost 2/3 of the global middle class will be in Asia. And these people, as they enter the middle class, want higher levels of protein, better nutrition, and demand on high-quality food products is going to increase continuously. Secondly, we think by partnering with GFSI and the Global Markets Program, we can integrate a number of SMEs into the global supply chain. And this is really critical because, as we are seeing these days, as a result of globalization, there are a number of segments of the population that are being left behind. Therefore, trying to integrate these SMEs into the global supply chain is critical for us. And as a result of all this collaboration, we do hope ultimately that the farmers, which is what we want to target ultimately, their yields will go up and their income levels will increase. We also have a program called the Global Trade Supply Finance Program, through which we are able to finance a number of these SMEs. And by financing them and reducing their interest costs, we hope to make them more competitive over time. We've had a very successful partnership and collaboration with GFSI in Kazakhstan, Georgia, and Ukraine. And I do hope that as a result of this MOU, we will be able to expand our footprint with them in Africa, and for me, very importantly, in emerging Asia. So thank you very much to Mike and to all your team members for including us, and we do hope we can take this to the next level very quickly. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Vivek and IFC. The partnership that we have had with them in the past has indeed been a fruitful one. We have demonstrated proof of concept that we can work together and we can really bring market access and improvement to local farmers so that they have the opportunity to build their businesses and to enter into supply chains that without this partnership they would not be able to do. So it is truly a way to drive economic growth as well as provide more access to various markets around the world. So we look forward to expanding the footprint, and I think you hit on some very critical geographical regions that are of great interest to all of us. We had a poll in the opening session, and I think I saw Africa kind of come up to the top of the list there. So we're very much looking forward to exploring those opportunities as we drive food safety and public health improvement around the world in collaboration with our public sector partners. I think, you know, what we've learned through all of this is that private sector can't do it alone, the public sector can't do it alone. We've got to work together with all our stakeholders in order to really drive these improvements. And so I think it's a great example of cooperation, collaboration. What's particularly gratifying out of all this is not just about talk. Talk's important, talk gets you started, but what's really important is that we've got tangible projects that we're going to be working on that are going to have tangible results that are going to impact people around the world, and that's what really excites me about all of this. So thank you all for being partners with us, and we will continue the journey together. Oh, the signing, okay. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we can open it up to questions for anybody in the audience. Yes.
So I have two questions regarding what Mr. Paul Mayers have mentioned about that the private assurance scheme will gonna kind of give the impact to the decision making of the regulatories. So I would like to ask you about regarding this point. So by having this private assurance scheme having impact on the decision making of the regulatories, or given this assurance scheme being utilized by the public sectors, what do you exactly mean? How are they going? How will gonna be utilized? And that's my first question. And the second question is that by doing so, what kind of process will be taken, and what will be changed, and what can we expect for the future?
Thank you very much for the question. In terms of how private assurance schemes can contribute to public sector decision-making, an important component is the assurance through the supply chain. When a scheme provides certification, government, such as in Canada, can take into account that certification as part of its overall consideration of the risk in association with the practices of a business. So it complements the direct inspection and oversight that government provides, and taken together can strengthen the outcome in terms of the safety of products from that business. And in relation to your second question, what is critical is the exchange of information between the private scheme and government, so that government has information with respect to the performance of a business in meeting the criteria that a assurance scheme represents.
Any other questions?
他に何かご質問ありますでしょうか。
食品新聞金井と言います。
I am Kanai from 食品新聞。Okay, my question goes to Ms. Yokota. By discussing on discussing the food safety with all the participants from around the world, I myself think that Japan is most advanced in the food safety area. But while you were discussing with the other participant from the other country, what's your impression towards the Japanese food safety, and also how the people from different countries are looking at? Yes, at the intergovernmental meeting, and also with the GFSI meetings, and GFSI meeting with the regulators. Well, actually, many things have been discussed during those meetings, and what was mentioned that each country are in the different stages, and actually we didn't kind of directly discuss about the situation in Japan, but I think but I know that many people are visiting Japan for this conference, so I hope that they will enjoy Japanese food, and they can feel that they can get some impression towards our culture and food. And actually in Japan also, we are now in the stage of reviewing our regulation and also the system. So therefore, what we are thinking is that we would like to make kind of more safer system and more rational system, so that that can be kind of highly evaluated from other countries as well.
Yes.
月刊ハセップの岩本と申します。
I'm Iwamoto from Monthly
Mike
HACCP.
Roebuck.
I have two questions to Mr. Mike Roebuck. I know that the version 7.2 of the benchmarking requirement been issued, and the major topic covered there is about the competency of the auditors. So I would like to know, what do you think about the current competency of the auditors? And that's my first question. And the second question is that you are planning to kind of expand the HACCP to all the food chain, overall food chain, even to the retailers level. But I think that it is very difficult to kind of expand this HACCP to the retailers level. But what do you think about that?
Well, thank you for the two questions. Very good questions indeed. One of the reasons that we went down the road of auditor competency was to provide some harmonization in auditor expectations. The various certification program owners had different programs that assessed auditor competency. And one of the things we felt about that at GFSI is that we needed to have consistency and we needed to have a base level of knowledge and skills that needed to be demonstrated in order for auditors to conduct audits against the GFSI recognized certification programs. So that was really the motivation behind it. We had some variability, let's put it that way, between the different CPOs on how they assessed auditors. And we wanted to eliminate that difference and get consistency. And to answer the second question about expanding the food chain from the farm all the way through to where the consumer comes in contact with the food, and the principles of HACCP can be applied to retail and food service. And I think the working group that did that clearly demonstrated that. And of course, we have to start with GMPs and basic good hygiene, but then through risk assessment, hazard analysis, you can put appropriate control measures in place. It's not going to look the same way as a HACCP plant and a manufacturing plant, but indeed you can apply those principles very effectively to retail and food service outlets.
I'm from China, from Shinkasha Tsushin, and my question goes to Mr. Paul Mayers and Mr. Vivek Patak. And you also mentioned about improving the food safety situation in developing countries, and also mentioned how GFSI can contribute to that improvement. But I would like to know what kind of discussion you had towards China, because I know that there are many Chinese consumers, they're having kind of uncertainty and who are a bit kind of worried about the food safety. So therefore, from this from the future global partnership, how do you think you can improve the food safety in China?
Thank you very much. The discussions that we had with respect to strengthening capacity in developing countries and leveraging the partnership between both business and governments around the world in doing that included some of the efforts already underway in collaborating with our counterparts in China. For example, and Mike can better than I speak to the collaborations already in place between GFSI and the Chinese government, which are already very strong. We also discussed the work that many of the countries are doing through the Global Food Safety Partnership, which includes projects in China as part of the collective interest in how food safety systems can be strengthened through public-private collaboration. So finally, the opportunities to contribute to strengthening food safety are significant, and China has been very actively working with both GFSI and with governments in that pursuit. And we are confident that those efforts are paying dividends. Thank you. Mike, did you want to add?
Yeah, I'm happy to expound on that a bit. GFSI has a long-standing relationship with the Chinese government, with both CNCA, China FDA, and AQSIQ, as well as the local CIQs. We've held annual GFSI focus days in China now for the last, I think, 6 years. And a couple years ago, we did a formal evaluation of China HACCP against the GFSI benchmarking requirements and determined that China HACCP was technically equivalent to a GFSI certification, a further sign of that cooperation between GFSI and the Chinese government. We also have used the Global Markets Toolkit for capacity building throughout China and have a long-standing relationship with Shanghai Jiaotong University to deliver this kind of training. And we've trained the trainer, so now these trainers are going out and working with people throughout the whole of China.
So I think clearly our engagement has been at two levels, with the government and with the private sector. And since we've already had a good discussion on what's being done with the government, I'll focus more on what we're doing with the private sector. So for the past almost 15 years, we've had a very active engagement with individual companies. And what we're doing there is essentially we're providing them a combination of advisory services to improve their standards and to implement food safety recommendations. And we also provide them with financing to help implement these standards and to grow their business, and very importantly, to have an outreach and to create an ecosystem around their suppliers and direct outreach to farmers, which they can do as a result of the financing and advisory services that we provide them with. And what we are quite proud of is that at least a few of our clients today have not only been very successful in China, but they've also expanded overseas into new markets. And I think one of the reasons they could do that was because they implemented the highest food safety standards back home. Thank you.